Ferzoco.
What's going on, boys?
He's our guy from the Twitch chat.
Hey.
Part of the failed Pick 6 parlay as well.
I had a rough start to the year.
I have a rough week every week. We'll get to that later. But Brian Ferzoco is I believe Scal would call him a hoop head. He is an NBA guy. He watches games at all hours, all games, all teams.
Every email we get from Brian is the Celtics. Like they're not even playing.
No.
And we're getting a Celtics,
so much Wembanyama.
Yeah. And then he's like,
but don't ever change. I love it.
do you see what Shams said about the fourth points guard on the Blazers? No, I didn't, and I don't give a rat's ass about the fourth point guard
I
of the
care.
Blazers.
You keep telling us. You keep emailing us, bud.
Okay,
all right?
So we thought we would bring your immense knowledge, statistics, and your viewpoints to the big stage. So, what are we talking? I believe we're talking about the Celtics and their three-point shooting, because I know Ted Johnson is a proponent of maybe lowering that number and not making it their focal point of the offense.
I think we have a disagreement in philosophy on that, right, Brian?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, Ted, I sit back there every day. I'm one of the behind-the-glass brethren. I think me, Stiz, and Dan refer to it as. And a lot of times I can't chime in and, push back on some of your three-point stances. Much of them are, I agree with, but certain basketball ones I do sort of, bash my head against the wall listening to. And
Let's hear it, buddy.
one of them is the three-point shooting. Yep. And over past seasons, I've totally been with you. I think it lowered the Celtics, who, especially over the last 2 years when they had Drew Holiday and Porzingis and the rest of those guys, they were head and shoulders, I think, the most talented team in basketball. I think it wasn't really close, them and the number 2 team, and I thought it sort of evened the playing field. When they lost to Miami a couple seasons ago, I thought a big part of that was because they sort of evened the playing field and turned it into a make-miss league, as Doc Rivers liked to call it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought certainly last year with the New York Knicks, much more talented the Celtics were a much more talented team than New York was last year. And it became a series that they ended up losing, in part because Jason Tatum got hurt. But I thought big reason you got to be down 2-1 and then eventually 3-1 when Tatum got hurt was because you sort of shot yourself out of that series.
Yep.
This team is not that talented. This team is not as talented as they have been the last few years. And I think overall, if you just look at the talent on this team, they're not a super talented team. They have a couple good players. Your guy, Jaylen Brown, I think is going to be an all-NBA player when the season's over. I think if you're the best player on a top 6 team and averaging around 30 points, you're sort of a shoo-in for an all-NBA player, especially a guy like Jaylen Brown who's already gotten that award, Finals MVP, all that. But you look at the rest of this roster, Derek White's a good player, but I think he's sort of getting exposed into showing that he's not a true number 2 on a true contending team. And Peyton Pritchard was a great 6-man, but that's what he is. He's a good 6-man. And I think that when you're playing some of the elite teams in basketball, some of the good teams in the NBA, you're not going to really be able to compete with them shooting a lot of 2-pointers. And I think this is a team that we've seen over the last few years thrives on shooting the 3. This is a team that's built to sort of shoot beyond the arc, and that's the kind of offense they want to play. They're 6th in offensive rating so far this season. The 3-point shot has been working for them this year, and that is with Derek White struggling to start the season. That's with Peyton Pritchard struggling to start the season. They're both still shooting below the league average. I think this is the way. It's not the most visually appealing way, and in the years past, Ted, I've been with you. I've been pulling my hair out watching this team a lot of nights where they're just jacking up threes and taking these shots. This year, unfortunately, I hate to say it, I think this is the way that they're going to have to win games.
Even though Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, and Derek White are all shooting below their career averages from the three-point line. The guys that are leading the three-point percentage this season, Baylor Shireman, Hugo Gonzalez, Jordan Walsh, Anthony Simons, and Luka Garza. Those are the best three-point shooters on the team, and they're the lowest volume shooting players on the team. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, and I think what the Celtics think, and this is sort of a bigger analytic thing, is, revert back to the mean, right? That Peyton Pritchard's not going to shoot this bad for the rest of the season. Derek White's not going to shoot this bad for the rest of the season. These are guys who should be shooting in the high 30s, right? When you look at their career averages and what they've done over the last few years, you're expecting them to shoot better. And I think that's what they're going to do. You look at it and say, okay, you had a really slow start. Pritchard and White have been shooting the ball better. You expect Jaylen Brown to shoot the ball better, specifically from beyond the arc. I think that this is the formula that they want, and they expect those guys who aren't shooting as well as Hugo Gonzalez or some of these other guys that you mentioned, Baylor Shireman, that these are guys who are capable of hitting at a high rate.
One of my biggest reasons for pushing back is you can't count on hitting your threes every night. You can count on good defense, right? You can count on effort and pace. And if you decide that you want to attack the rim, the Celtics are dead last in free throw attempts, and they really only have one guy that can, other than JB's the only guy that really is attacking the rim. You just feel like to depend on a one thing that is just you can't count on night in, night out, I just think is a mistake by the Celtics.
And they have less guys to count on, too. Mm-hmm. So, theoretically, you thought Drew Holiday and Porzingis, like those are Al Horford. You lost 3, you could say, proven. You knew what you were basically going to get over the long haul of a season.
3 starters, my God.
You don't have that anymore. So you've narrowed the window of guys that have to be the consistent three-point scorers, and then you start leaning on some other guys that might be a little more, and that's where you get. So I looked it up. We talked about it yesterday. Terp said, just be average shooting threes. And over the last 20 years, whatever it was, shoot 36%. That's the end. Well, you're at 34.7%. So you're below average shooting threes. And we're more than a quarter. What are we? A quarter of the way through the season here.
But you're below average with arguably your 2 best 3-point shooters having the worst start to their career in terms of shooting in Pritchard and White. I think the Celtics, and again specifically the analytics. I know we all hate that term.
Yes, we do.
The analytics say that they're going to revert back to the mean. That Pritchard's going to start shooting better. That White's going to start shooting better. That they're not going to consistently be a low 30s shooting tandem.
One of the other things they struggle is obviously I mentioned that they have a struggle. They struggle to get to the free throw line, and they're one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. The 3-point shot adds to that. It's harder to get rebounds. Well, it certainly
adds to offensive rebounds, no doubt about it. But you look at this team and you say, who's going to be the one getting these rebounds, right? And I think the rebound as a stat as a whole is sort of flawed in today's NBA. And when I say flawed, I mean, Nikola Jokic is far and away the best player in the NBA. And you look at some of his stats, right? The 35 points and 18 rebounds. Well, look at those 18 rebounds. If you look at each of those rebounds, how many of them are contested rebounds? How many of them are true rebounds? I think the rebound stat is a little flawed in today's NBA because, and Ted, I know the Celtics are ahead of the curve in terms of the amount of three-pointers they shoot, but everyone's shooting a ton of threes now. Most rebounds in today's NBA are sort of uncontested rebounds. And, I mentioned Jokic, right? Out of those, let's say he gets 18 rebounds one night. How many of those are really contested?
Okay, let me ask you. 2, 3? What do you think? Do you care about the free throw attempts being the worst in the NBA at getting to the free throw line? Does that bother you?
I think free throws are important, but I also look at the roster and say, who are guys who are going to be able to get to the line consistently? Who has a good enough dribble? Who's a guy who can get to the hole and make a team have to foul, right? You look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who always leads the league in fouls drawn, right? Or James Harden over the last couple years, right? Those are guys who not just draw fouls.
D-White.
The reason that sure, but those guys can draw fouls because they're such a threat at the rim, at finishing at the rim. Anthony Simons is more of a just I'm gonna huck it. He's the perfect Celtic for what I'm saying, right? Like he just wants to chuck.
See, I think he can. I think he's more athletic than that. I think he is He has the ability to shoot.
He create it himself.
I think he can. If you get I think Ted's right. You're gonna have to lean into this. It's a little different than what you've been doing and asking people to do. Derek White's a good example. I think if you tell Derek White to hang out by the 3-point line and shoot threes, he will. And if you tell him to take it to the rim, I think he could draw more fouls and get to the line.
Very skilled.
Can he do that as the number 2? I think that's my biggest question because we've seen him be able to do it when he's on the floor with Tatum.
He can't shoot
Brown,
threes as the number 2 because he sucked at that so far.
That's a good point. Yeah. So I think he's starting to get a little exposed, but what do you trust him more as? I've seen him be a consistent shooter throughout his career when he was with San Antonio. As soon as he got here with Boston, I haven't really seen him be a consistent number 2 that can create his own shot, that can create shot for others.
All right, let's take the first call of the Ferzoco Friday era. Let's go to Tariq in Boston. What's up, Tariq?
What's up, fellas?
Hey.
All right, so I'm just I'm listening, and I agree. In a perfect world, you'd want them to go to the hole more so they can get to the line.
Yep.
So they can score easy buckets. And then in the same breath, someone said, well, the only guy that can do that is Jaylen Brown. Nobody else can do that. And that's the point. They're built to do, unfortunately, for the aesthetic, it's the other thing, shooting the 3, shooting outside. You don't want them shooting 16, 18-footers. So it's got to be the 3-pointer or get to the rim. And right now, have you watched these guys try to go to the hole? Have you watched them? Who has had a blow-by? Even Jaylen Brown's not getting a blow-by. Who's had a straight-up man-on-man and a blow-by to the rim? No one. They have to do 6 screens to get a guy anywhere near the rim.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Tariq. Quick retort?
Yeah, go ahead.
Quick retort, Brian?
No, I agree. I mean, look, sort of what I was saying, right? Like, the mid-range shot is the worst shot in basketball, right? That's what the analytics
Except for
tell
JB.
you. Except for your guy Jaylen Brown,
for
the
goodness
deep
sakes.
two is the worst shot that you could take. And I agree with Tyreek. Like, none of these guys are you going to ISO and say, go to the rack, go create your own shot, go create a shot for another guy. Like, and that's the issue I have. And I know you brought up Indiana a lot last year, right? As a team that doesn't shoot a lot of threes. Well, they have one of the best facilitating point guards in the league who can also get to the hole.
And they
Celtics don't have
transition.
that.
They just so fast. And their pace of play is very fast. Yeah. Brian,
All right.
great job.
Great job. Great job. We look forward to it. I think there will be some future Ferzoco Fridays. Maybe we'll talk about JB, MVPs, Joe Mazzulla, his coaching style, his role.
Cato's the MVP of this
There's
team.
plenty of things to talk about on a Ferzoco Friday. Nice job, Brian. Up next.